It's a really exciting day because we just bought our next long-term truck. You know, we go through a few a year and it's time to test something new. Now, we checked out the new Ram 1500. We were thinking about waiting for the new HD Ram. What about Chevy? What about Ford? No. Andre decided he wanted to go a little bigger than an F350, an F450, even an F550. That's right. He went ahead and custom ordered a ginormous military truck. And in this video, we're going to tell you how you can do the same and spend less than half the price of an F-150 Raptor for a gone-through monster truck. We're here at Boyce in Ogden, Utah, and the fine folks at Boyce do something pretty cool. You see, we're in this yard surrounded by hundreds of ex-military trucks of various sizes and shapes. And what Boyce does is they take these rather tired old trucks and give them a new lease on life. They can go through the engine, they can repaint them, they can add creature comforts, and then they can sell them to you with a clean Utah title ready to be driven on the streets for a lot less money than you'd expect. I mean, think about less money than a full-size truck. In some cases, even less money than a mid-size truck. This is a 2.5 ton. This right here is a 5 ton. Significantly larger, thousands of pounds heavier. You need a monster place to park one of these 5 tons. Believe it or not, they're not that much more expensive though when it's all said and done than the deuce and a halves. Now, we're going to talk to Dallas, who has been with Boyce for a long time. He's he's actually third generation Boyce family who helps run this place. And we're going to get all the information on these trucks and what these guys do and how you can get one of these for a surprisingly tiny amount of money for how much sheet metal you're getting. So listen, I've heard the word deuce and a half for years. Sure. I'm gonna tell you a secret. I have no idea what that means. Can you walk me through?
It's just size. It's towing capacity, load capacity is kind of what they base it off of. 5 ton?
Yep.
And then you got a deuce and a half. Here's like a perfect example. You want to know the difference between an A2 and an A3. They're side by side here.
And what do you mean by A2 and A3?
So they have models. Okay. So in the 2.5 tons, M35 A2, molded fuel engine, 5-speed standard manual on it. Okay?
And what years were these?
60s, 70s
okay.
era. Okay. This one is an M35 A3. So this was like late 80s, early 90s model. They took the same look of everything and they put a Cat engine in this one, 3116 Cat. And then they stuck a 4-speed Allison in this one. Both 2.5 tons. Same axles. You can see same axles.
So obviously, Dallas, these trucks came from different backgrounds. So that looks like military.
Yep.
This one's got a utility box on the back. This one's got a tanker on the back.
Yep. They're used for brush trucks to fire apparatuses to you name it. You know what I mean? That one, that's a cool one. So that's an M52. I think it was an M51. It used to be a dump truck. So it used to have a dump on it.
Okay.
So this one is a 5 ton. Okay. I would say this would be late 50s, early 60s, early 60s model. This also had a molded fuel engine in it. It starts and runs. We love this truck. We drive it around. We have to pull run flats out of big old tires. And this is our truck that helps us pull run flats out.
Crazy.
So it's so this one's a really old one.
So they're all 6x6s.
Yep.
And then one of the things you guys do is you actually cut the rear end off and create what you were talking about, which is a bobbed truck.
Yeah.
And I mean, how does that process work? You cut the frame?
Don't try not to cut the frame as much, but obviously based on it, we might have to. So here's a perfect example of a truck that will be going in. Now this is an A3 model, not an A2. This has got a Cat motor with an Allison. This is more of like an early 90s era is what this is. But what we do is we basically put the front suspension that's on the front end, we put it on the rear end, and we'll just put the axle where it needs to be to kind of center everything up.
Crazy.
Yep.
So let's talk about this truck. So this is a 2.5 ton.
2.5 ton.
And if we look back here, this one's still got the 3 axles.
So this is still got 6x6. So when it came in, that's how he does it. This will be bobbed eventually.
Okay.
So this whole bogie axle that's connected will slide right out. That's kind of how it works. And then you can choose which axle. You can do the forward rear, you can do the rear. It doesn't matter.
And what percentage of the trucks in this lot do you think run when they're delivered to you?
You know what? That's a good question. The 2.5 tons, not that many of them.
Because they're just too old?
Well, not because they're too old, mostly because batteries are gone or they're no fuel or they've got fuel issues.
Sure.
And then that's what we like to do because we go in and we do it and then we can fire them. I would say the 5 tons, it would be more like 60% of them are running when they come in here.
Okay.
A lot of times you just throw in batteries, they'll start right up. That's probably a good percentage. I'd say 60, but in the 2.5 tons, I'd probably say 30%.
Pretty small.
Yeah. You don't have to, but we like to do a rebuild on them. Head gaskets was the biggest thing. They were just very prone to leak a lot. And then with them sitting for so long, you really don't know what you got. So for us, especially when we're doing a custom built like that, we pull the whole engine, transmission out. Engine we totally go through. Obviously new head gasket. While we're in there, we're looking for anything else that needs to be replaced or repaired.
So obviously, like this white truck has seen better days.
It has seen better days.
Is that like a truck that's too far gone, you think, for what you would do? Yeah.
No, I look at this truck, bumper looks pretty good. Fenders are straight on it. Hood's pretty straight on it. Doors need some love. Honestly, it's a pretty good looking truck to kind of build off from.
And obviously, when your client's done with it, it's not going to look anything like this.
Nothing like that. No.
Cool.
No, that's what's fun about that.
There's a bunch of different engines. So this is that multi-fuel, which can run on all
Correct.
sorts of different fuels. And I noticed, which is interesting, is you guys aren't doing like LS swaps or Cummins swaps.
No.
What's the thinking behind keeping the original engines?
I grew up with these trucks. I like to keep the engines. I like to keep a lot of the stuff how it is. And I think a lot of your people that are out there, if it be like ex-military guys or whatever it may be, I think they're kind of in the same boat to kind of leave everything the same.
This is that larger 5-ton we were
This is a larger 5-ton, correct. Great thing about the 5-ton, a lot more powered.
Okay.
So you got a big Cummins engine in them. They put out about 250 to 260 horse. So they have an NHC 250 Cummins, which is a non-turbo. And then you have a 6 CTA 8.3 turbo, which is in this one.
And which one's better?
You know what? It depends. The 250 Cummins has a lot of high-end torque to it, so off-roading, you know, you got a big load and you're off-road, they're great for that. I kind of call them the workhorse. 8.3 is kind of a hybrid. They do great off-road, but they do really great on-road too. You know, because it has that turbo. If you're pulling something, you're in high elevation, that turbo is going to help out.
Right. What's the transmission?
Transmission in these are a 5-speed Allison in these ones. Most of your deuce snaps, they'll either carry a Detroit locker option, which they had for a lot of years, or you can do an ARB air locker in them, which is cool. You know, those are really cool. I would say that's another popular item that we put on a lot of the bobbers.
The ARBs.
ARBs and things like that. The 5-tons, they did do Detroit lockers. They never, that I know of, did an ARB air locker.
Okay.
So only Detroit, so it's on full time, you know. Whereas them ARBs, you can flip them on and off. It just kind of makes them kind of nice.
So Dallas, one of the cool things about your shop is not only can you do mechanical, you can also do paint. So you got a full-fledged paint booth in here. What are you guys doing with this truck?
So it's not automotive paint, just FYI, you can see it's kind of a, we just kind of threw it up there. We use high industrial paint, or we use like the military carc bases and things like that. So we'll come in here, we'll do body paint guy here. He freaking just bangs it. He'll just do all the body up on it, make sure everything's straight, everything's looking good, everything's sanded down, even because he wants to have a nice empty canvas where everything's all straight, right? So then from there he'll primer, he'll do another color. We usually like to do a base color like a black. He'll do the whole chassis, the steps, the engine area, and then depending on what the customer wants, you can do any color you want. We've done some crazy colors. We've got a couple. We got some red ones, some orange ones, some lime green ones. Green's probably the most popular. I'd say green and tan. Yeah. Because they're the carc bases. Nice thing too, they come in aerosol cans. So if you scratch that baby up a little bit, just put a little spray paint on there, you're good to go. What we do is on our website, or I could be on the phone with them, we have basically a menu. So you can see, hey, you could see this truck, see what it comes with, you see the price, then you can say, okay, here's the menu of options that you can add to that. What do you want? You could leave it stock if you want to leave it stock. You can do all the options on there. We've had a guy do that before, do all the options that are on there. You know what I mean? So it's just whatever how much money you got, number one, right?
Right.
What you want to have done and what's the realistic, you know, what are you looking to get out of it, I guess you can say.
What are like the most popular options that people are selecting?
Power steering is probably the biggest option in the deuce and a halves because there is none.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, so no power steering. So power steering, especially when we're putting the bigger, taller tires on there, you're going to want to have power steering for sure. So that's probably the number one option. Probably, again, the trucks run on 24 volt. We nowadays have a thing called the cell phone that's to our hip all the time, so you need a charger. So we put some 12 volt capabilities up inside the cab, so you've got that. So that's kind of a must nowadays. Winches is a big thing. We do electric winches, which are easy to use. You have this one is a PTO driven winch. We also call it a 3-man winch because it literally takes 3 dudes to operate. You got a guy that's up in the cab that's operating the PTO and the winch controls, and then you got 2 guys that are kind of pulling it out and whatnot. So these are old. These are pretty old school. Parts are really hard to come by. So now, and this is only rated at like 10,000 pounds.
Wow.
So nowadays, we've done a lot of business with Mile Marker. They're a big winch manufacturer. We'll put a 15,000 or an 18,000 electric winch on them, and it's plug and play, or you have a like wireless remote, and just you can stand back and it just does it all.
Yeah.
So nowadays, you know, the time frame we live in nowadays, it's just there's a lot easier things you can put on these trucks to make them nicer.
I see a lot of 2.5 and 5 tons, but there's no Humvees.
No Humvees.
And no of the Stevenson stuff. Why not?
Yeah, I've got a couple Stevensons kicking around. The Humvees, a lot of guys are doing them. A lot of businesses are doing them, and I wish them all the best of luck. I was just never a Humvee fan.
You like the big toys.
Yeah, I'm just more bigger, I guess. I mean, the cool thing about the Humvees, though, that I do like is they do have the 4-door option. So if you have a family and things like that, they're great for that. These, I've seen guys do quad cabs and 4 doors and things like that. I've seen the way that they've done them, and it's not the greatest, and it's kind of a lawsuit waiting to happen, but one day maybe we can maybe extend these to make them to where they can fit a family. We have done a quad cab once. It was actually off of an M35A3. We did it about 5 years ago. It was cool. It was a long build. It took a long time to build and do it right. But hopefully something we can do in the future, for sure.
And then Stevenson, you're saying off camera, just too complicated.
You know, it's not that they're too complicated. I just think they just have a lot of, I just think they're just kind of a cluster. They have a lot of just grounds and wires all over the place. And if this hits that hits that, it just malfunctions.
Right.
I know the alternators are a big concern on them as well. Just to get one of those, they could cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing I would say when it comes to that. And honestly, we've only dabbled in them just a little bit. We haven't really gone into them like we'd like to. And I think the reason being is because these are still keeping us really busy. Yeah, that one's an old girl. GMCs were kind of the first, kind of the 2.5 tons before the M series 2.5 tons. You had the G508s, the G506s. So you had 4x4, 6x6s, but mostly the GMCs, that's all they had. And then obviously as kind of they rolled around, the M series kind of took over these trucks.
Did they do anything with like power wagons back in the day?
Yeah, so we have done some M37s. We've done some old Kaiser Jeep M715s.
Yeah.
We've done a couple of those. They're just getting harder to find.
Yeah, right.
I think I've got one. We can probably get a video of it. I've got an M37 over here.
Wow.
That needs some love, you know what I mean? So, and those are, I think it's a 52 model.
What about like the M715s? Did you ever do anything?
Dude, those are the coolest trucks.
Yeah.
Like, I love them because they're like the truck Jeep look, right?
Yeah, right.
And they only built so many of them. They built them in the late 60s. They're just rare.
Dallas, you have the coolest job I think I've seen in years.
It's okay.
This is unreal.
No, it's fun. Like I said, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got an old M37 right here. I got 2 of them actually. So that one's really, really old. And then this one, you've got that's been decent shape. And then that one's seen better days.
Is there like one truck that like in this yard where military collectors go crazy over them? They're like, we got to have that. Are they all kind of about the same?
Yeah, it's all kind of the same. You know what I mean? I would say the M715 is very popular.
Yeah.
I get a lot of phone calls on those. I get a lot of phone calls on the 80s like pickup trucks.
Yeah, like the GMs.
Like the GMs. So the hard thing about the GMs is supply. They're getting harder to come by.
Yeah.
The other problem is they've got a killer front end and they got a killer rear end.
Okay.
So a lot of times, hate to say it, but I have to take them down because I'd rather rebuild the front end and the rear ends.
Right.
But sometimes if they come in like straight bodied, I want to keep them. Like this one, for an example, this one came in. We've got to tweak, kind of get it running and stuff, but you get that thing running, that's a good straight body truck that came right from DNR. I mean, it's a good dashes, the interior is not the greatest on these, but like I said, you can recover the seats, put a covered dash on there, and call it good. But these are, I get a lot of phone calls on these.
These are like 6.2 non-turbos.
6.2s, yeah, it's crazy. And then we go like 55, they're geared at 456s and 50 down the road. But guys love them for work trucks, you know what I mean? They do a lot for you, you know?
So Dallas.
Yes.
So you've been talking to Andre and my dad about finding a deuce and a half to build out for us. And I think they were saying M3 over M2.
M35A2, M35A3.
This is why we got the expert here.
There you go, brother.
So A3, a little bit newer.
Yep.
But doesn't have the multi-fuel.
Correct.
But it's automatic.
Yep, A3 is automatic.
A little bit roomier, it sounds like.
Yep.
You don't get the manual transmission. Which one do you think is cooler? Do you like the A2s or the A3s more?
I like the A2. It's tough. Do I want to have a burger and a drink and drive sometimes? That automatic's kind of nice, you know, going down the road. I'm nostalgic towards the A2.
Yeah.
Usually they have like what they call the Whistler turbo on there.
Okay.
So you can hear that thing from about a block away.
Cool.
So you know it's coming.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. I grew up on those trucks. But the A3s are nice. They're just updated. They got an automatic, so if you don't want to have to mess with, you know, the stick shift and stuff, which is kind of sad. It's a dying breed nowadays. So yeah, it makes it a lot easier to drive for sure.
All right, well, I think they want to go A3 because the automatic or videographers can drive it and that kind of thing. So we got a bunch of them. Let's go pick one out.
I think I like this one right over here. If this is the one I'm thinking of, I think this might be a good A3 right here. Good body on it.
Dude, sweet.
All you gotta do, just remove the bed, bob it down. Might have some missing stuff in here. Yeah, it's pretty complete.
Do you know?
It's actually not too bad.
So was this an ex-surplus truck?
Yeah.
But judging by the paint?
Yep, absolutely.
Crazy. So this is obviously 3-axle right now. It's got this huge bed on it.
Yep.
It's gonna look pretty different when we come and pick it up from you guys. What year are the A3s typically? What year do you think this guy is?
Early 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Are we keeping these size tires, remember?
No, these are about a 43, 44 inch tall tire. We're gonna go a little bit taller. We're gonna go with the 46 for you guys.
And then I think Andre wanted the single rear axle.
Correct, yep, we're gonna bob it down. So we'll just cut off the back end. So typically what we'll do is we'll remove this section off of here, and then we'll cut, and then we put this section back into place is what we do.
Oh, dude, I'm so excited. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Man, crazy. Thanks again, buddy.
Yeah, dude.
I really appreciate that.
No, this will be a fun one.
Dallas, now the big question, and I think this is where a lot of folks are going to be surprised, at least I was when I learned the price on these. So what would it cost if I came in and said, I want a deuce and a half, I just want it to look good, run properly, and have power steering? What does that typically run?
Well, it also kind of depends on, do you want us to go in and redo the engine?
Okay.
Right? Because like I said, that's kind of the biggest drawback on these is you don't know what you're going to get. We can start it, we can run it, we can go test drive it. It might run out great and stuff, but is it going to leak? Is it going to have, we're going to have some issues down the road, you know what I mean? So personally, we like to bring them in and we like to, you know, go over them and go through the engine and do all that stuff.
So if someone came in and said, I do want one of those trucks that's up to snuff, I want it bobbed so I can drive it around so it doesn't look silly. Like, what are people typically paying for the 2.5 tons and the 5 tons?
Yeah, so on our website, boyceequipment.com, you go right on there. I think watch out for them bees.
No,
I know for sure the bobbers, the A2s, A3s, they start at 32.5, 34.5, somewhere right in there. You can get in a truck with power steering, with a paint job, with the big tires, under 40 grand,
and that's
all day long.
With like the engine checked out. And
Yep.
So this is, Dallas, this is what's blowing my mind. Like, we've done some stories on folks like you guys who are doing Unimogs or other big trucks.
Sure.
And like, to find one under $250,000 is kind of the norm, especially in like the Unimog world, where you can go out and you can get a really nice truck that's been gone through for under 50K.
Yeah.
Big price difference between the 2.5 and the 5.
There really isn't a huge price difference. Maybe $4,000.
That's not much.
4 or 5 grand maybe in difference. You know what I mean? So there's not maybe I should go up on price. Because everybody says the same thing, like, man, I can't believe it. But it's true. I mean, obviously, I would say in the last couple of years, a lot of the builds that we have been doing as far as the customs, they're over 50 grand.
Sure.
But they're not 100 grand.
Right.
By no means. They're maybe touching maybe 80.
I mean,
you're still
half-ton truck price territory.
100%. Yep, 100%.
Crazy.
So.
A huge thank you to Boyce for making this video possible, and I can't wait to check back in a few months with you guys to show you our finished ride. It's going to be absolutely awesome. A huge thanks to Alex behind the camera and everybody here at Boyce. We'll see you guys next time.